Hey everybody, it's Brandon the Weekend Cruiser, where I go on a weekend cruise just about every weekend. And as a lot of you may know, I just spent a good bit of time over on Royal Caribbean's Oasis of the Seas. So I have now come back home to my home ship, the Freedom of the Seas, that does the weekend cruises out of Port Miami, that you all know that I love, and wanted to do a quick comparison on big ships versus small ships. And first of all, the Freedom of the Seas is not a small ship. It's actually one of the larger ones in the fleet. The Freedom Class is directly under Quantum, so it is not a small ship by any stretch of the imagination, but the Oasis Class ships are huge. And I know that last week was the inaugural sailing of Royal's Wonder of the Seas. So a brand new ship, the biggest, the best out there. But I wanted to take a look at what are the differences between those big Oasis class ships and a Freedom class ship, or even smaller sizes. So I'm going to give you probably about 4 things that, I really like about the Oasis class ships, or the bigger ships. And then I'm going to talk about 5 things that I don't like, always comparing them back to the smaller ships. So let's jump on into it. So when we think about the larger ships, or the Oasis class ships, one thing that I have come to call them are the ships of more. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about, they're going to just have more of everything. So the first thing they're going to have is they're going to have more entertainment. So they're going to have your traditional headliner style shows, but where smaller ships might have just the singers and dancers, which are fantastic, they're going to really step up that game on the bigger ships with Broadway style shows such as Mamma Mia or Grease on several of them, and Hairspray on another ship. So they're going to be able to do a lot bigger production from that large stage that they have. They have a whole lot of more capabilities. You're also going to have larger events and entertainment spaces for live music. So on the Oasis, for instance, you have the music hall in the back of the ship. So that is a great place for bands to go. It is a 2-level club that is more sophisticated and has an upfeel kind of vibe to it, if you will. With great music and great performers. You're going to have Belarus, which is going to be your Latin music, and that is a huge spot on the ship. And you're also going to have a room dedicated just to karaoke, which is entertainment all unto itself. Some of the best performers I've ever seen have been on ships, and some of the worst I've ever seen have actually been on ships as well. But there is just more of the entertainment. One thing that I actually found myself really liking was some of the random entertainment that the Oasis class ship had, and in that the Central Park area would have a random celloist, for instance, in the middle of the evening. So it was just a really nice, welcoming kind of environment where you could find some of those random flares to enjoy yourself on the ship. The Oasis class ship is also going to have more food options. Now, if you are somebody that is a foodie and you love to eat, this is going to be important to you. They're going to have a lot of the fan favorites that you all have come to know and love on Royal Caribbean, such as Izumi, Giovanni's, Chops. You're still going to have those on these ships. El Loco Fresh, all those. They're going to give you some new flares, such as the Park Cafe. Maybe it's Portside Barbecue, one of my favorites from this past ship. You're also going to have Park 150, which is the really high-end upscale restaurant on the ship. And you're going to have plenty to go around, especially if you have the suite access and you can get into Coastal Kitchen. So that is also one of the huge selling points, is just being able to kind of separate away from the main dining room and go to Coastal Kitchen when you're not doing some of those specialty restaurants that this ship is also going to offer. There is a lot. We had the food package on one of these sailings, and trying to get to all of these restaurants is exhausting. It is a ton of food if you want to eat at all of these places. So make sure you're being very strategic in where you're going, because by the end of the cruise, you might fill up. The bigger ships, I think, are also more kid-friendly. Now, the Freedom of the Seas is going to have plenty of kid options, but the Oasis class really ups the game when it comes to what there is for kids to do. Now, you're still going to have the 2 flow riders in the back. You've got a huge sports court with a full basketball court. You're going to have the Dunes golf course. You're also going to have zip lining. You're going to have 2 massive rock walls. You're going to have the ultimate abyss. There's just so much more for these kids to be able to do. And there's also more pools on this ship. So I feel like just by having more pools, more hot tubs and saunas for the kids to really enjoy and spread out makes it much nicer for them to enjoy and really have a good time. This is one that I didn't really think that I was going to like as much as I did, and you all saw the room tours that I did on this ship. So I did a Crown Loft Suite, I did a 2-bedroom aqua suite, and I did the junior suite on the Oasis of the Seas. One thing that I liked about the Oasis class, and hopefully a lot of you do too, is just the sheer option of staterooms that are out there. Now you can do your classics. If you want an inside or an ocean view and a balcony, they have those. But if you're looking at other options, so you might not want to pay as much for an ocean view balcony, you can look at a boardwalk balcony or a Central Park balcony. And then they're really going to go up to that higher end luxury level where you start talking about the grand suites, the Crown Loft suite. You've got the Aqua Theater suites that are out there. You guys know my thoughts on that. Definitely prefer the Crown Loft. Check out the video on why that is the case versus the 2-bedroom Aqua suite. But there are a lot of great options here. If you want to do something fancy or you want to make this be a really, really special cruise, there are plenty of stateroom options that are going to be able to accomplish that with you. What I don't like about the Oasis class, what I didn't like about the Oasis class compared to the Freedom of the Seas, is that the Freedom of the Seas just feels more manageable. So it is a smaller ship, and I could really tell the difference when I got to the Oasis class, especially given the location of several of my rooms. The first one was all the way up on deck 17. The second one was all the way in the back of the ship, and the next one was kind of midway. But it was a lot of walking, you guys. Like, for me to go to the gym took me a good bit of time, and I'm used to being able to walk. I'm very mobile, very active. And there were times that I'd forget things in the room and I'd be like, look, I'm not going back and getting it. Like, it's just too far. I would also not take the stairs as much on the ship, which I normally try to always take the stairs. But if you're starting at 17 and you've got to go down to the promenade on 5 or maybe my time dining on deck 3, that's a lot of stairs. And I don't want to show up out of breath or a sweaty mess to my formal night dinner or to meet up with friends for a drink after everything closes. So I wound up taking the elevator a lot more. And this is normal. A lot of people actually wound up taking the elevator more. And because of that, the elevators are actually more crowded on the bigger ships, in my opinion, even though there's more of them, because more people are just taking the elevator because they have so much farther to go. So keep that in mind on when you're booking a room. It really matters on the bigger ships more than the smaller ships where you're going to be located at. So the sailings that I was on came in around 3,500 people. And honestly, it felt crowded in a lot of spaces. So the ship is huge, but the problem is everybody wants to be at the same place at the exact same moment. So it actually felt a little bit crowded to me. Walking around the ship, it's odd. A lot of places, it felt a little deserted. There weren't many people there. If you could get off the beaten path, do something that a lot of people weren't really doing at that time, you'd feel like you had the ship to yourself. But most of the time, like, I was normal. I wanted to do what everybody else was doing, and so I felt a little bit cramped. This is a big one to me. And one reason that I like the smaller ships is because of the sense of community that you have on board. So it's a more intimate environment. It is a smaller environment, and you're going to run into the same people many times. It's very easy to make connections here, and you feel like you're in the cruise together. You're part of that community of whatever that sailing is. When you go to the big ship or to the Oasis class ship, you're going to see that it is massive. There are plenty of places for you to hang out, to grab a drink, to do things, and you're probably not going to see people as frequently as you would on a smaller ship like the Freedom of the Seas. So if you're going solo, which you all know I love to do a lot and I do it very frequently, I like running into the same people so I can build relationships, I can see them again, and by the end of the cruise, I've made a new friend. So this one's a little bit nitpicky, but the cruise planner on the app, because it is such a big ship and there are so many things going on the Oasis class ship, I was scrolling for days to figure out what it is that I wanted to do. There were so many items that were listed in the cruise planner app. Even if you had the paper copy, I mean, this print is just so small that it's tough to read. It was tough to actually see what I truly wanted to do, sorting through all the noise. I finally found out, here's the best practice here, that there is a filter option in the upper right-hand side of the daily cruise planner. So if you're in the app, look to the right-hand side when you expand it, and it will allow you to filter down to shopping, to entertainment, or something of that nature. But it still is really cumbersome because there's so many things going on the ship, which some people are going to love having all the different options. But for me, I kind of know about what I want to do when I come on, and if I can't find it or I don't see it, chances are I'm not going to do it. And I feel like I may have missed a couple of things because I just couldn't find it on the planner. The last one I'll leave you with is a really big one to me. Is you all know that I love seeing the world. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to take you with me on some really exciting trips later this year. But the big boy ships don't go a lot of places. I mean, if you're in the Caribbean, for instance, you're going to be going to Cozumel, Costa Maya, Roatan, Honduras, maybe San Juan. You're going to have St. Martin in there. You're really limited on where it's going. It's not necessarily going to more exotic destinations. And so you know that I've been in the Baltic, I've been in the Persian Gulf, I've done Alaska runs. I love getting out there and seeing the world. And these big boy ships are very limited because they just can't get into some of the smaller ports, which are some of my absolute favorites. Key West, for instance, is one of my all-time favorite ports. And unfortunately, majority of Royal ships are just too big to go there these days with some of the regulations they have. So my overall thoughts on big ship versus small ship, and look, everybody's going to cruise different. There are some people that absolutely love the Oasis Class ships, especially I know a lot of Canadians out there, shout out to the Canadian viewers, that love to come down and spend the winter on cruise ships for 3-4 months at the time. And they want a big ship because they have all of these options. They don't want to feel like they're going to get bored or get tired of kind of the same items that smaller ships might have. And I totally understand and appreciate that. With me staying on for several weeks, I found that honestly, I just didn't wind up doing all of those extras. That ship of more, I found that I didn't actually need more. One of the things I like going on a ship for is to relax, to unwind, to unplug. And because there is so much going on, it's easy to come back from a vacation and feel like you almost need another vacation because you stayed so busy on the ship with all the different entertainment. Now, some people are going to absolutely love that, but my style of cruising is one of more relaxation, more of hanging out and taking it easy, except when I'm in one of those exotic locations. And then I'm going to see as much and experience as much as I can. I also really did miss the sense of community that came with the smaller ships and being able to see the same people over and over. That is by far my favorite thing, is meeting all of you on the ships, meeting others. I love just hearing stories about how people came to enjoy cruising or enjoying their very first cruise. And I felt like I missed that a little bit on Oasis. I'd still see some of the higher tier folks often because we were doing the Coastal Kitchen or we were doing the Diamond and Pinnacle Lounge, but I missed some of those other stories that I often get here on Freedom of the Seas. Hope you enjoyed my take on the differences in big ships, small ships. Certainly something to consider if you're looking at booking one of these and you're going, should I book the Royal Caribbean Wonder of the Seas, Oasis of the Seas, or should I look at something smaller like the Freedom of the Seas? And again, Freedom is not a small ship by any stretch of the imagination, but you definitely have some options, and hopefully this was helpful. All right, everybody, this is Brandon, the Weekend Cruiser, hoping to see you on a weekend cruise soon, enjoying a smaller, more intimate ship.